Welcome back to the channel, everybody. So before we get into today's video, I actually just want to take a moment and say thank you. This week we actually hit 105 subscribers, and I know for some folks, hey, maybe that's not a big deal, but for me, I'm super pumped. So I just want to take a moment and say thank you to everyone who took the time to click that subscribe button, hit that like button, and is really helping to pave that channel to make it what it is for me here. So thank you so much for that, folks. I really appreciate that. So for today's video, what we're actually going to be doing is we're going to be repairing a waterlogged hot tub cover. This fella right behind me here, okay? So stay tuned and let's get into it. Okay, so what I started noticing over time was that this hot tub cover was getting super heavy. Every time we would go in the hot tub, every time we'd have people over, you're going to flip this thing and it's like, why is it so heavy? To make a long story short, what happens over time in these things is the vapor barrier. That's the layer that's actually underneath the, I'm gonna call it the leather cover on the outside. It breaks down over time, and then what happens is the foam itself actually starts to absorb water. And once that happens, the cover gets waterlogged, it loses its insulating properties, so to speak, and it's the next step before the cover fails, essentially, okay? So you've got a couple options on your hands. Number one, you can replace the cover, okay? Taking a look here, I was looking somewhere in the ballpark of around $700 to $800 Canadian for a replacement cover. The cover that I currently have is a 5'3" cover, meaning that at its thickest point, it's 5 inches, and then it tapers down to 3 inches, okay? And again, in my mind, you know, I didn't want to have to go through that expense of having to replace the cover. When you look at the little tag that comes on the hot tub, it actually says the cover is only good for anywhere between 3 and 5 years. Okay, in my mind, if I'm spending $700 or $800 on something, I would really hope that it's going to last a little bit longer than that. So let's get into it here. So I'm just going to flip the camera around so you guys can see here. So this is the cover itself, okay? So the first thing that you actually have got to do here is, once I get it open, hopefully this will help you get a bit of a better perspective on it. The way that I actually, you know, got into the idea of I could actually fix this was by looking online and watching a video of how they were manufactured. And from that video, I was kind of able to reverse engineer the process a bit. So what will happen is if you look under this seam here, there's actually a zipper. And what will happen is this zipper folds up into this pouch or this pocket. And when you pull this zipper out of here, it actually allows you to unzip the entire seam. And when you do that, it'll show you the actual innards inside here. So what will happen is you're going to have a foam core that lives inside this thing. Now, most places that foam core is going to be an open cell foam core, okay? Meaning that essentially it's porous, okay? So what they do with that foam is they cut a channel in the side of it here, and then they insert an aluminum stiffener, okay? That's just to give the cover some rigidity. Then what they do is they wrap it in a vapor barrier, same style of vapor barrier that you would use if you were building a house, you know, or waterproofing an area. Now, that vapor barrier, like I was saying earlier, it deteriorates over time, and that's where we start running into issues. So with this cover here, when I open this up, I took it completely off the hot tub. That's why my cover lifter is still up in the air here. But when I took it off, the vapor barrier literally was just disintegrated. There was next to nothing left. It was really hard. It was almost kind of crispy. So I knew I had an issue on my hands. So what you're going to want to do is get this off of the tub, get it into an open area. Now, if it's really waterlogged, these things can end up weighing a couple hundred pounds. You're probably going to need some help to do it, okay? So what I did was, I unzipped both sides of this, and once I had it open, I pulled those foam cores out, okay? And again, one weighed what felt like 1,000,000 pounds, and the other one was a little bit better than that, okay? What you're gonna have to do with those cores is you're gonna need to dry them out, okay? They will eventually dry. If you have a garage, fantastic, leave them in the garage. If you can put a fan on them, or if you can warm them up, that's your best bet. If you can leave them for a few days, they're eventually gonna get eventually the moisture is gonna start to dissipate out of there, but it's gonna take time, okay? What I did with this one, I actually left it for probably about 3 weeks. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a garage, but I've got the coolest wife in the world, and she actually let me keep this inside in our kitchen because these things are like 6.5, 7 feet long. I really couldn't maneuver them anywhere else. And I let them dry out in my kitchen. So what we're gonna do now is we'll just fast forward to the process of actually wrapping the cores, and we'll talk a little bit about the products that I got and how I went about doing that, and then I'll show you the reassembly. So let's get to it. Looks about good. Okay, so we managed to get the cores out of the hot tub, and what I had to do is I had to make sure that I dried these really, really well. A lot of folks would say, you know what, leave them outside in the sunlight for a few days, or better yet, if you have a garage, throw them inside the garage with a space heater on them, and that would dry them out. Unfortunately, I only had about 2.5 days where the weather was really nice, and I was actually able to let them dry outdoors. They've been living upstairs here in my kitchen for almost a month, so thank goodness my wife was very understanding with what I was trying to do here with those. So after trying to weigh them, I can feel a distinct difference. The one that was really, really heavy is much lighter. It's not completely dried out, but it's very, very close. So the plan is I picked up some Vapour Barrier here from Home Depot. So this stuff is 6 mil Everbuilt if you're looking. This stuff should be approximately 8.5 feet wide by 58 feet. So it's overkill. I got a ton of this stuff, but again, for the price you're paying for the roll, it's not too bad. And then I also picked up some tuck tape. So if you ever had to put Vapour Barrier on a house, this is basically what you would use to get it to be up to code essentially. So my plan is I'm gonna lay this stuff out on the floor. We're gonna drop the cores onto it and then roll them up. Now I'm gonna probably go a few layers thick. When you actually buy one of these hot tub covers, you know, they'll give you the standard 4 mil or 6 mil Vapour Barrier, then they'll offer to upgrade you to the really, really thick one. It's really a pretty insignificant upgrade. The old cores, when I pulled them out of the hot tub, the old Vapour Barrier was 1 layer thick and it had basically disintegrated almost completely. Like it was just basically flaking off when I was pulling them out. So that's something to keep in mind. So I'm probably gonna double and triple up on this. So once I lay the core down, I'm gonna wrap it one way, then I think I'm gonna try to turn it the opposite way and wrap it again. Again, just trying to get a more waterproof envelope out of this thing. So let's get started. Now, what I'm gonna do as I'm rolling this out here is I'm actually gonna tape one corner of it down so I can fold the entire thing open. I think this is gonna make it a little bit easier to work with here. So I'm just gonna use some painter's tape to do that. So one thing that I can tell you right off the hop here is that this stuff feels significantly thicker than the stuff that I recovered off of the hot tub cover. So that's a good thing. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna spin this back a little bit more here. Okay, so we've got this entire piece all sealed up here, which is fantastic. Again, important to remember when we're doing these seams here, we want to make sure that we're not leaving any gaps because again, we want to make this thing watertight. So I've got a couple wraps all the way around on this side here, and I'm confident that this thing's going to hold really well. I've got the second core lined up. It is literally going to be the exact same process that we used to get this core here finished, okay? So I'm not actually going to record that section, but what we're going to do is we're going to pick right up from when we're going to reinsert the cores into the actual hot tub cover itself. So, okay, perfect. So once you've got this thing back in here, you've got your zipper done up, you just fold these corners over into triangles and you just slip them back in these pockets. This thing is functional and it is ready to go back on the hot tub. So we were, for probably about 45, 50 bucks worth of components, we were able to save 700 bucks, provided that my sealing of the Vapour Barrier actually holds up. So we'll probably end up doing a bit of a long-term review on this one just to see how it turns out. But beyond that, folks, thank you so much for tuning in today. Again, if you like the content, please give me a subscribe and a thumbs up, and we'll catch you in the next one. See you later.